Adam Hall, the man who used HIV as a weapon in multiple sex attacks, has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 23 years. So hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond Conviction. I come across this story quite a while ago and I thought I would just share it with you guys. So Adam Hall is from the northeast of England, a town called Washington, which is not far from Sunderland. He's 43 years of age and he has been assaulting young men and, God bless their hearts, boys for many, many years. And he's quite recently been in prison for life for some very despicable and disgusting offences. So the particulars of the case are outlined as such. A dangerous rapist who deliberately infected 5 young men and 2 boys aged between 15 and 17 years old with HIV has been handed a life sentence with a minimum jail term of 23 years. Adam Hall, 43, wanted to inflict pain and harm on vulnerable men he targeted online or at bars in Newcastle between 2016 and 2023. Hall, as I say, who's from Washington near Sunderland, was found guilty of inflicting grievous bodily harm on 7 victims, 4 of whom he raped. The victims said they have been violated and left with lifelong conditions and trauma, while Judge Edward Bindloss said selfish Hall had taken their futures away. Before I read any further, guys, this is a very unique case, not one that I've read. Nothing similar I've read, to be honest. So as far as I know, Adam Hall was very well known on the gay night scene in Newcastle upon Tyne, and he was diagnosed with HIV many years ago, but has not been adhering to the medication regime that was being advised to him by the NHS, and has effectively for years been using it as a weapon for his own sick and disgusting kicks. Personally, I don't know much about the disease, if that's what you want to call it, but it will leave people, I imagine, very distraught, and they may feel that their life's over. It's such a terrible condition, and if someone has been deliberately giving you it when they've blatantly said that they're free of such infections, God knows how I would feel if that happened to me, and especially to the younger victims. God bless them, between 15 and 17 years of age. Life's not even started for them, and now unfortunately they're going to be on strict medication for forever. It's absolutely disgraceful, and it almost made me cry when I read it the first time. It's just such a bad case, and I don't understand what goes through people's heads when they do these things. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, that was my little rant on the case, but I'll go into a bit more detail. So, Northumbria Police said that even more suspected victims have come forward since Hall was convicted, with another investigation that's currently ongoing. Hall, who refused to leave his court cell for the sentencing hearing, had carried out a campaign of the R word to deliberately inflict HIV on the victims. But reading back on that, have you noticed in recent times the really big cases? For example, the Thomas Cashman, the guy who shot that little girl, Olivia Pratt-Corbell, in Liverpool, and other cases that have got high media attention. It's become quite fashionable that these guys aren't leaving their cells for sentencing as just a one, final blow to the victims and their loved ones. Personally, I think they should be forced, if needs be, shackled and, forced to stand and listen to the victims' impact statements. It's becoming a terrible and nasty fashion in the court system, but I do believe that the Ministry of Justice is investigating, setting conditions to where offenders during sentencing have to attend, which I hope gets passed, because I think they should, most certainly. But anyways, I digress. Since his own diagnosis in 2010, health professionals have been gravely concerned about Hall's behaviour and repeatedly warned him about the risk he posed to others. Hall was well aware of the need to take medication to keep him at non-infectious levels and to inform sexual partners of his HIV status. He falsely claimed he did both, the court heard, but instead chose not to take the medication and deliberately targeted men who were vulnerable for the riskiest sexual activity. Despite advances in healthcare, HIV remained a lifelong irreversible condition with significant health risks requiring treatment. Adding the harm was compounded for the rape victims, as every time they took medication they would be reminded on a daily basis of the ordeal Hall inflicted upon them. In a statement read to the court, one of the men, who was 18 when he was attacked and infected by Hall, said he had been violated in the most horrific and dehumanising way and being left with a trauma he carried every day. He said he felt disgusted, ashamed and completely alone, adding, "There are days when I feel I am just surviving, not living." It's just such a bad case. I'm not too sure if I want to read any further, but for the users who are interested and want to know the intricacies of the case, I will continue. A third man, who was 19 at the time he was infected, said he had been hurt in the most malicious way. Judd Barnloss said Hall's refusal to attend the sentencing hearing was entirely in keeping with the indifference the rapist had shown to the suffering of others. He said the victims shared the same sad and moving stories, adding, "They have all had their futures taken away, all deliberately because of Hall." Dismissing claims made by Hall during the trial that HIV was not a serious injury, the judge said that the men had been given a permanent and irreversible illness with a lifelong dependence on medical treatment. Hall did not tell the men the truth even after the sexual encounters, robbing them of the opportunity to seek early treatment and reduce the risk of the virus developing. In saying that, guys, I do know, upon a little bit of research I've done, if you suspect you've been infected with it, there is medication out there that you can take, but you have to take in a certain window. I think it's within 2 or 3 days, where it can halt the virus's ability to absorb into the body. But with Adam Hall not telling these victims that he had this condition, they weren't able to take that medication and therefore have been left infected forever. The judge described Adam Hall as a dangerous offender who posed a high risk of serious harm. Hall was sentenced for dealing drugs, some of which he had given to one of his victims before attacking and infecting them. Jurors failed to reach a verdict on a charge of the R word committed against an 8th man. With the court hearing, prosecutors would not seek a further trial. During the sentencing, Hall was jailed for life with a minimum term of 23 years and 42 days to take account of the time he had spent on remand. So that's the case summarised. Again, I want your opinion, guys. This is just terrible. Really, really is. It actually choked me reading this. Not just the two of the victims were very, very young, under the age of 18, which is just horrific. I mean, I've got children. It's choking me now. I just don't know what to say, other than I'm so glad that this man is locked up, and for a very long time as well. And some people have said to me when I spoke about it at the actual time when it was in the local papers up in the northeast, like, he got more than some murders. Well, rightly so. How many victims has he harmed? And there's still victims that are coming forward saying that they've been infected by this man. So the chances are this 23-year minimum is quite likely going to be extended if those cases go to court. And again, rightly so. I don't think he should ever come out. I'm all for the whole life order where people have committed such horrific murders, but even for offences like this, where yes, no one's died, but I guarantee you most if not all of the victims probably wish they had died at the time when they found out that they've been infected with this disease. I think he should never ever be allowed out ever again, even if they release him as an old man. No disrespect to people who have this disease and who have accidentally caught it, but because he's a risk of attacks, and if he's a risk of attacks, he's also a risk of transmitting this disease. He should never be allowed out. At 43 years of age, and you've had that disease since 2010, you've been put down at 2023. You've had this disease for 13 years. You should know how horrific it is for people. Why? Because he had it. So he should know what it's like to be going to doctors and being asked to take medication, and knowing that eventually you may have a really, really damaged immune system, which is what this disease does effectively. He is an absolute disgrace, and if he was to be let out, I reckon one of his licence conditions must be to take medication. And I mean, I wish he never gets released, but one of his licence conditions, if he was to get released, which I don't think he will with the cases that are ongoing at the moment, that he should be taking his medication, and he also should be subject to constant tracking, constant tests of his, like blood tests, to see if his medication is having an effect. And yeah, he should never ever be able to live as a free man. Even if he's outside, he should have the most stringent and strict licensing conditions. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think he should ever even have a chance of being let out? And if he is let out, do you think he must have the strictest licensing ever, to the point where he can't even breathe and he might as well go back to prison? I think this is on par with the likes of murder. It's terrible, because when people get murdered, God bless them, they're not here no more. They don't worry about it after. But these victims, they're worrying about it every single day for the rest of their lives. And I just think that he really, really needs to get a good handful of prison justice. But given his offence, and given the amount of time that he's got to do, he's going to be sent to one of them long-term dispersals. I can almost guarantee he's going to end up at HMP Wakefield with the likes of the Baby Preston murderer and other, sex-based cases. And that's what he deserves. He really does. And from my time in prison, I've not met, but I've come across people in prison who have HIV, and then more than likely got it via, drugs and sharing needles and things like that. And they are, even them who have, committed offences, not offences like this, but even them know the effects of it. Those people that society deems as, trash, even them people take medication. They know the harm it does to people. So it does take a certain person to really give people an infection that they know is just so devastating. But I hope he does get a good handful of prison justice, and I think he will, because with the cases moving through the police investigations, and will more than likely end up in court in the near future, he is going to, and you've seen the thumbnail, he's quite distinctive. People are going to recognise him. Look at them ears. It's just, oh God, it was just such a bad read. But part of me thinks I shouldn't have shared it with you guys, but another part of me thinks a lot of people don't understand like the level of depravity that exists in our country, our so-called free and decent country. But we're seeing more insane cases every week, and it's just getting worse. I believe the law needs to have a good shake-up, and I know you guys in the comments have said, certain sentences and certain punishments don't act as a deterrent regardless of how severe they are. But if one person thinks twice before committing an offence because they know what sort of sentence that they're looking at, it would all be worth doing, making the law rejig. But that's my view. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think people who commit offences like this, who use HIV as a weapon, should never be allowed out? Because if you're a murderer and you use, a knife or a firearm as a weapon, when you come out, you ain't going to have that weapon no more. But if you've got HIV, no disrespect to those who do have this disease, God bless you, and I hope you're all fit and well. Those guys who don't act like this, if you've got HIV, you've always got it. And if you've got the propensity to use it as a weapon, why should you be released from prison with that weapon to your disposal? I don't think you should. But yeah, a fairly quickish video. Like I say, as on all my videos, please put your thoughts in the comments. I actually love reading them, because some of the comments and educated thoughts that you put on there is refreshing. And I'm actually learning a lot from you guys, putting your thoughts in the comments, because they're so educated, they're very well thought. There's a few that are, said with anger, short and sweet, which I get, and I accept that, and I allow it. There's some comments that come in that have got data to back it up. So people are actually putting some real thought in their responses to my videos, which is amazing, which is what I want to see, and this is why I do it, because I'm learning a lot, and hopefully you are learning a few bits and pieces from the content that I'm doing. But yeah, I hope this was informative. For those who may have a restless night's sleep because of this video, I really do apologise. But this is a sort of content here and there that I will be putting on. So if you do enjoy learning about sort of, the depraved crimes that we're seeing these days, then feel free to drop me a like and subscribe to the channel, and you'll be notified of any more videos. My next video is going to be something so totally different to this. I know I've said that in my last couple of videos. I'm going to do something that isn't aimed at going through what people have done, what these lunatics have done wrong. But I promise my next video is going to be on something a bit more positive and something very, very educational, and something that I have experienced, and I can give you first-hand overview of my experiences and my thoughts on the criminal justice system. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you haven't already, as the cliche saying goes, please subscribe to my channel if you want. I'm not interested in making money from this. I make enough money doing my day job. This is just something I enjoy doing, and what I do it for is reading the comments from you educated guys, because I am learning so much, and I do appreciate that. So thank you, and peace and love, guys.